There's a question that at first sounds so simple that most people would answer without a second thought. Who are you living with? But once you cross the threshold of 70, that question begins to change. It's no longer just about who shares your bed, sits across from you at the dinner table, or greets you with a familiar voice in the morning. It becomes something deeper. Is there anyone truly sharing this life with you? Not just the house, but the living of it. I once had the privilege of speaking with a woman who was 92 years old. Her back had begun to curve with time, and her eyes were no longer clear, but her voice. It still carried the calm confidence of a teacher who had once stood before a room full of students. She smiled gently and said, "After 70, we all have to relearn how to live from the very beginning, because the rules that once guided our lives don't quite fit anymore." She didn't live with her children. She hadn't moved into assisted living. She didn't hire a private nurse. And no, she wasn't alone either. Instead, she had chosen to share a modest home with 2 friends around her age. Each woman had her own bedroom. They split the cost of electricity, water, groceries. And on weekends, they cooked together sometimes simple meals, sometimes ones that reminded them of their youth. They weren't bound by blood or marriage, but what tied them together was something no less profound. A warm bowl of soup brought to the bedside on a tiring day, a gentle hand resting on a shoulder after a troubling dream, or just a burst of laughter while watching an old black and white film they all used to love. Her story caught me off guard, not because it was extraordinary, but because it was so profoundly ordinary. And that ordinariness raised a quiet, unsettling question. How many of us or our parents, our grandparents, are spending these later years inside houses that have grown too silent? Homes where the ticking of the clock fills the space once taken by conversation, where meals are eaten at a table for one, and no one asks, "What did you put in this soup? It smells wonderful." Old age doesn't frighten us because of sickness or frailty. What truly frightens us is the slow erasure when no one notices if we're missing. That's when the deepest question arises. Am I still living or just waiting quietly for life to end? But here's the quiet beauty of growing older. You can still choose. You can choose differently. Not necessarily by packing up and moving, but by deciding who will share your remaining years in a way that feels right for you and no one else. And so in this journey, I want to walk beside you as we explore 5 possibilities. 5 different ways people over 70 are reshaping how they live. Each path comes with its own gifts and limitations. Each is real and perfect, but full of life. And all of them begin with one truth. You don't have to face this chapter alone unless that's what you truly want. Part 1. A hard truth to say aloud. The longer we live, the lonelier we become. Did you know that in the United States, over 40% of people over 70 live alone? They often say they're enjoying their freedom. That after a lifetime of caring for others, they've finally earned a space that's entirely their own. They call it independence or say they don't want to bother the kids. It sounds strong, noble even. But behind the closed doors of those quiet little apartments, there are unspoken sorrows quietly growing day by day. A 75-year-old man once told me, "I live alone. It's fine. Every morning I get up, make coffee, read the paper, but one day I dropped my cup. It shattered on the floor. I knelt down to pick up the pieces, and right then, it hit me. If I collapsed right here, would anyone even know?" That question, as painful as it is, echoes in many homes. Researchers at Harvard once followed thousands of people for more than 70 years. What they discovered was chilling. Loneliness damages the brain and the heart just as much as smoking every day. Without social connection, older adults are more prone to depression, cognitive decline, and even early death. That doesn't mean living alone always leads to sadness. But if no one hears you talk about the little things like how you saw a bird resting on your windowsill today, then over time those small pieces of your life pass by unnoticed, unshared, unheld. And what makes it harder is that older adults often hide how they really feel. They don't want to complain. They don't want to be a burden. So they learn to say, "I'm fine," even when the silence stretches across the years like an empty hallway. One woman shared how whenever she called her mother, the response was always the same. "I'm good. I don't need anything. Just, I wish there was someone to eat dinner with at night." That's the heart of it, isn't it? It's not about having food. It's about having someone to share it with. The pain isn't hunger, it's being forgotten. It's feeling unnecessary. Old age doesn't crave applause or bright lights. It simply needs a warm glance, a familiar voice, a companion, someone to sit beside you in the morning and sip tea without hurry. And that's why more and more people are starting to rethink, maybe living alone isn't the freedom I thought it was. Part 2. Living with your children and grandchildren, healing or suffocating. One of the most common choices for older adults is to move in with their children and grandchildren. On the surface, it makes perfect sense. You get the comfort of having someone nearby. Your children feel relieved knowing you're safe and cared for. And in the beginning, it often works beautifully. Meals feel fuller. The house comes alive with children's laughter. You feel included again, part of the rhythm of family life, not forgotten. Some call it returning to the nest. But as time passes, something subtle begins to shift. Not arguments or shouting, just tiny frictions slowly building day by day. An elderly woman once confided, "I live with my son and his wife. They're good people. They're not rude, not unkind. But I don't dare turn the TV up. I hesitate to switch on the light early in the morning. Even eating the food I like makes me feel guilty. Sometimes I ask myself, am I living in my home or someone else's?" When 3 generations live under one roof, differences in rhythm are inevitable. Older people often wake early, prefer quiet, and value calm. The young are busy, stressed, quick to snap. Seniors need peace to rest. Children need freedom to play. None of this is wrong. But when there's no space for mutual understanding, the air grows heavy with unspoken tension. Many elderly parents well into their 80s still carry a quiet fear. The fear of being a bother. They worry they eat too slowly. They forget things. They sense the subtle sigh when they spill a glass of water. And so, they shrink themselves. They speak less. They ask for less. They make themselves invisible. Gradually living together turns into something lonelier, being a guest in your own family. At the same time, the children carry their own burdens. They love their parents, but they're stretched thin with work kids and money. They don't always have the time or energy to sit and listen to old stories every evening. They care deeply, but they're tired. And sometimes that fatigue becomes distance. This isn't anyone's fault. It's simply that living together takes skills we're rarely taught. That's why moving in with your children can be a source of great joy, but only if both sides have clear boundaries, open communication, and above all, mutual respect. Without that, love wears thin. And instead of healing, the shared home becomes a quiet wound. Old age doesn't ask to be pampered. It only asks to be seen as a person with autonomy, with needs, and with the same dignity they've always carried. Part 3. Living with people your age. A chosen family without blood ties. There are no blood ties connecting them. No shared last names. No family trees intertwining. And yet, when they live together, they call each other late-life roommates, neighbors in heart, or simply the family we chose for ourselves. It's a growing trend in many places. 2 or 3 older adults, usually 65 and up, decide to share a home. Not because they have to, but because they want someone to share life with in the truest sense of the word. Take Eleanor, 78 years old. After her husband passed away, she moved in with an old friend from school. Each has her own bedroom. They share the kitchen and living room and have built a rhythm that works for both. Every night we take turns cooking, Eleanor says with a smile. No one serves the other. No one feels like a burden. We're just 2 old women making dinner for each other. For some from older generations, where blood family was always the center, this might seem unusual. But for many seniors today, this kind of arrangement is the key to keeping 3 of the most precious things in old age. Independence, connection, joy. Living with someone your own age offers one priceless gift: mutual understanding. You don't need to explain why you move more slowly in the mornings, or why you prefer silence after 8 p.m. The other person, just as seasoned by time, simply knows. No one minds when you retell a story for the 3rd time, because they've just shared theirs for the 4th. Of course, it's not always smooth sailing. Some people who've lived alone for years may struggle with sharing their space. Some need clear boundaries. Who does the dishes? Who cooks on which day? Who pays for what? But when the relationship is rooted in mutual respect and free choice, it can become a kind of home that feels warmer than anything you've known in years. Eleanor shared that her 80th birthday was one of the happiest days of her life. There was no big party, no cake, but my housemate made me breakfast, placed a rose on the table, and gave me a handwritten card. I read it and I cried. In today's world, not everyone has children living nearby, but that doesn't mean you have to live alone. Friendship, when nurtured with care, can become your second family, one that's full of quiet laughter, soft understanding, and a love that asks for nothing but presence. Just like breath itself, gentle, steady, and deeply human. Part 4. Co-housing communities, privacy with connection. In a quiet corner of the suburbs, there's a neighborhood that at first glance looks like any other. Charming little houses, flower-filled gardens, children riding bicycles, adults tending their lawns, an elderly man reading on his porch. But if you look closer, you'll notice something different. No one here lives completely alone, and no one is entirely dependent either. This is a co-housing community, a growing lifestyle model chosen by many older adults around the world. Each person or couple has their own private home, but they also share communal spaces, a gathering hall, a shared garden, a dining area, a small library, even an exercise room. Margaret, age 74, shared her story. When she retired, she knew she didn't want to move into a nursing home, nor did she want to live with her children. Living completely alone felt too isolating, so she moved into a co-housing community with over 40 other residents, most of them over 60. I still have my privacy, she said, but I never have to eat dinner alone unless I choose to. Co-housing isn't just about where you live. It's about how you choose to live intentionally. You live close to people who share your values and rhythms. You're never cut off, yet never pressured. You have access to support while maintaining independence. Each week, residents might join communal dinners, take part in painting, classes, walk together at dawn, or simply spend time gardening. They're small things, but they fill the days with life. That said, this lifestyle isn't for everyone. Some older adults who've lived independently their whole lives might find it overwhelming. Too many people, too many activities, too much noise. Introverts might feel drained by the constant interaction, and being surrounded mostly by other seniors might make some long for the presence of younger energy. That's why the key is choice, not obligation, not because it's what people our age are supposed to do, but because it genuinely feels right for you. For some, happiness is found watering plants with neighbors each morning. For others, peace comes from a quiet home with just a cat's meow and soft jazz on the radio. Whatever your style, the most important thing is this: to live in connection without giving up your privacy. And co-housing, when thoughtfully designed and respectfully run, can offer a gentle balance between the two. A place where you're never truly alone and never smothered either. Part 5. A tiny village of close friends. A way of living we all secretly dream about. There used to be a dream one that felt too far-fetched to ever be real. What if we gathered our closest friends, pooled our savings, bought a few houses next to each other, and spent the rest of our lives side by side? And yet, in many places today, that dream is quietly coming true. They call it friend villages, tiny neighborhoods created by longtime friends who want to walk through their later years together with meaning, joy, and shared laughter. 4 women friends since their college days decided to retire early. They searched for a quiet piece of land and built 4 homes side by side. Each one has her own life, her own rhythm. But since they've moved in next to one another, not once have they felt alone. One of them shared. If I sleep in and don't turn on the lights by a certain time, the others start calling right away. And when I was down with a fever, I didn't even have to ask. There was soup waiting at my doorstep. No nurses, no caregivers, just deep friendship. And a natural sense of care that comes from loving one another over the years. This model appeals especially to those without children, or to those who never wanted to become a burden on their kids. Close friends may not replace family, but in many cases they become the family you choose. Of course, living near your friends isn't the same as vacationing together. There will be differences in habits, routines, and personal space that must be honored. There will be quiet days, maybe even some tension. But if the friendship is strong and the listening is deep, then a friend village can become the most ideal setting for growing old. And here's the surprising part. This kind of living isn't lonely at all. In fact, it gives you a reason to wake up every morning. Today is Wednesday Tea Day on the porch. Tomorrow is your neighbor's birthday. This weekend, an outdoor black and white movie night under the stars. No one is left behind. No one is invisible. Everyone has a role. Whether you're the one brewing the tea or the one telling corny jokes. And perhaps most beautiful of all, you get to grow old with the people who know you best. Closing, the person you choose to live with becomes the quality of your life, After all the options, living alone, moving in with your children, sharing a home with a friend, joining a co-housing community, or building a friend village, what matters most isn't the setup. It's the feeling of belonging. Old age doesn't require a crowd. It just needs one or maybe a few to share a meal, to ask how you slept, to sit quietly beside you when words aren't needed. A 92-year-old woman once said, "When I was young, I chose someone to love. Now I choose someone to live with, and those two things are not the same." And if you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, maybe now is the time to gently ask yourself, who do I want to share the rest of my life with? Don't be afraid of change, because aging isn't the end. It's a chance to live more truthfully, more freely, more in tune with who you really are. If this message speaks to you or reminds you of someone you care about, please like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Light of Wise Elders. Here, we believe that aging is not fading, it's deepening, it's becoming. And every day, we bring you gentle stories, quiet wisdom, and a soft light to guide you home.